All right, so I guess I'm going first. Like you said, my name is Aubrey Seal, and how many of you have heard of Impact Norwood before knowing about the presentation today? No one? Anybody? Okay, so Impact Norwood is a substance use prevention coalition, and the key word there is prevention. So we want to stop substance use problems before they start. And to do that, we really need to work with youth. So my primary job is to reduce the things in the community that put youth at risk for using substances and increase the things that keep them safe. So I like to tell a little story to really get people to understand the full picture of prevention. So bear with me as I tell this story. There was a gentleman and his friend. One day they decided to go fishing down at the river in their local village. And when they were there, they noticed people slowly coming down the river, asking for help. So they immediately jumped in and started helping these two people that they saw coming down the river. And once they got them to shore, villagers came out and said, "Oh man, what's going on?" They started to help the people that they had just pulled out of the river, and as they were doing that, more people started coming down the river. So we have all these people coming down the river, struggling, asking for help. The villagers are jumping in, rescuing them, bringing them ashore, and this goes on for about an hour. And about an hour later, they see another townsperson walking up the river away from all of the commotion. And that really upset the people that were jumping in and saving these people who were drowning. And about 45 minutes later, the people stopped coming down the river. There weren't as many people that needed help getting out of the river. And the gentleman that was seen walking away came back. And they said, "Why did you walk away? We really needed you." And he said, "Well, I thought I should go upstream to figure out why so many people were coming down the river. And it turns out the bridge had some broken slats in it and people were falling through." So that kind of sums up my job. So we see people struggling with addiction, and my job is to go up the river and find out what is putting those people at risk for coming down that river, what is putting people at risk for struggling with addiction. So I like to think of our community of Norwood as that bridge, and when all the sectors of the community work together, we can prevent youth substance use and eventually end the addiction epidemic that we're in. So that's kind of my spiel about Impact Norwood and what it is that I do. And I know that there had been a request today to learn more about vaping, because that's something you're probably hearing on the news quite often and it's really confusing. So I know the bare minimum about vaping. I'm more of a prevention expert. I know the basics about substances. So I wanted to invite in a colleague of mine who works at Bay State Community Services in Quincy. So she's going to give you all a really in-depth presentation about vaping. So are there any questions about Impact Norwood in general before I turn it over to Mary? Yeah.
Does Impact Norwood address the issues of older people and addiction, or is it primarily youth?
So it's primarily youth right now because we have a federal grant that funding basically funds the work that we do, and the guidelines for that grant say that we need to work on preventing youth substance use, but that's not to say we don't want to work on adult substance use prevention. Yeah.
And I'm sorry to follow up on that. We're working on the ARP Norwood being like an aging community thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we do it right, there will be grant money available, so you should probably keep an eye on that, and
Yeah,
that
definitely.
would hopefully be available.
Definitely. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Mary, who is going to talk about vaping. So, welcome, Mary.
Thank you. I guess I'll stand. Yeah, whatever you want. All right, I'll stand here. So hi, everyone. My name is Mary Cole, and I run the Greater Boston Tobacco-Free Community Partnership Program. Like Aubrey said, I'm out of Bay State Community Services in Quincy. And just so you guys understand a little bit more about my role and like where I come from, I get funded by the state's tobacco program. It's called the Massachusetts Tobacco Cessation and Prevention Program. A really long, annoying name, like my title. I basically, my job is to prevent young people from starting using tobacco, to help people to quit, and also to reduce the harms of secondhand smoke. And that's all on a macro level. And I actually serve 56 towns, and Norwood is one of them, which is why Aubrey invited me to come speak today. And I also like to point out that I don't get funding from the tobacco or vaping industries in any way, and I just think that's important to disclose, because then I'd be tainted, right? So I'm not tainted. So I'm going to start off by talking about kind of why we came to this vaping epidemic today. So I know you guys are a little far away from this graph, but this shows Massachusetts high schoolers' use of tobacco products in the past 30 days, starting in 1995. And that, the one that says 35.7% at the top, that's cigarette use by high school students. And so you can watch as that comes to present day just how it dramatically declined, right? Because back in the day, cigarette use was pretty normalized, right? Like it was a normal thing to do. It was a social thing to do. The bathrooms at school, there was, I know my grandma was a nurse and she said they would smoke in the hospitals. So cigarettes were a really normal thing. And what happened is we kind of realized how terrible cigarettes were. We put policies in place. We did a lot of education. There was media campaigns, our schools. They talk about the harms of cigarettes. And that's why that number reduced to about 6% of young people today smoke cigarettes. And that's an all-time low. And it's one of public health's greatest achievements is reducing cigarette use. However, if we look at that last line, it says the 23 and 20%, that is vaping use among young people. And so we weren't even talking about vaping use 5-10 years ago. But however, it kind of came out of nowhere that these electronic products that have nicotine in them, that are kind of similar to a cigarette, but they're electronic, they came about. And now, if you guys you're listening to the news, if you talk to any high schools, they say vaping is one of their biggest issues in school. And it's really taken over. People call the bathrooms now, the vaping room or the Juul room. Juul's a type of e-cigarette. And so it's just so interesting to see that we almost beat this cigarette epidemic that had hurt so many people and killed so many people, and then kind of out of nowhere e-cigarettes came about, and it's replacing that, or replacing those people that could have smoked. Okay, so I'm going to start with a brief vaping 101 just to understand e-cigarettes, because I think it can be kind of confusing. First of all, does anyone know what that is, that product?
I thought I heard it.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that more. But Juul has over 3/4 of the e-cigarette market, and it's actually one of the main reasons that vaping became an epidemic. That little flash drive looking product right there. But so when we talk about e-cigarettes or vaping products, we're talking about these electronic devices that they all work the same. They might look different, but they all work the same. So they all have a lithium battery. That battery then heats up some metal coils. Those metal coils then heat up this form of liquid that has chemicals in it, including nicotine, and that's heated up to a really high level and inhaled. Right? So they can all look different, but they all work in that way. And so kind of what we say vaping is it's inhaling and exhaling an aerosol that's produced by a battery-operated device. And these can have many different names. So this is something that's confusing if you guys have grandkids or anything. If you ask them if they use an e-cigarette, they'll probably say no, because that's not cool. They have other names for it. They'll call them Juul, so the brand names, or maybe they'll say they vape, or they use vape pens or something like that. So there's a bunch of different names, so that's good to know. And we know Juul's a popular name. The other thing to note is, so I'm primarily going to just talk about using nicotine in these e-cigarettes. Ooh, is this me? I don't know if that's me. Getting too close.
Someone's vaping in here.
But I just want to point out that you can vape different liquid substances as well. So I'll be talking about the e-liquid or e-juice, which has nicotine in it, and e-cigarettes. Again, there's a few names. But people can also vape marijuana, the THC or liquid form of that. That's something that's becoming more popular now too. Also CBD is now a thing people can vape. But again, just so you guys are aware that this is an issue with other substances as well, but I'll be talking about the e-liquids. And there's a lot of different products. The first generation of e-cigarettes are this disposable type. Those are the e-cigarettes you guys might typically think of that kind of look like a cigarette. And they come pre-filled with the e-liquid, they're pre-charged, and then you like throw them out when you're done. So that was the first generation. The second generation, these are rechargeable and refillable. And they're like these long, also pen-like looking things as well. Our third generation are these really big devices called mods and tanks. So that's the bottom left one, and they're refillable, they're customizable, they're actually pretty expensive, and they can create really big clouds of smoke. So this happens to me often, but if you're ever driving or walking and a huge cloud of smoke comes out of someone's car, that's one of these, because they're really powerful. And that was kind of a fad, probably 5-10 years ago, these mods or tank systems, and then it kind of started to go away and not as many people use them, and vaping wasn't really too popular anymore. But then this fourth generation, Juul, these mod pod devices that we call them, came about. So these are, I'm sorry that, I don't know what's going on with that.
Maybe don't step on that.
Yeah, I think I was. Okay, we'll see if this changes, but yeah, so these devices are mod pods, and you can actually charge them.
Yeah, we just use the other one.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. Okay, that's much better. Okay. Yeah, so these mod pod devices, you can actually charge in a USB drive, in your laptop, and a lot of these too, Juul. So this is what the Juul starter pack looks like, and it has these little pods that have the e-liquid in them, and you can see how it's just charging right in the laptop. So Juul happened, and this became very popular. We have a Juul right here. Do you want to show it, Aubrey? Aubrey can, if you want to. Yeah, and it looks like a flash drive. It feels good in your hand. It's high tech, so it's something that kids kids can relate to. And also the flavors in there are really, really good. So this was a few years ago. Juul came out, and it really took off. And so the thing that separates Juul from the rest, besides the design, is actually the nicotine and the e-liquid content in there. Juul has a ton of nicotine in there, and there's so much nicotine that that little pod is equivalent to a full pack of cigarettes or 20 cigarettes worth of nicotine. So there's so much nicotine in here, and a way I like to compare it is in the European Union, they regulate the nicotine content of e-cigarettes to 20 milligrams a milliliter. Juul has 59 milligrams a milliliter. It's 3 times the legal limit that's allowed in the EU. So there's just so much nicotine in here, and it's highly, highly addictive. The other thing that Juul did is, because it put more nicotine in, it actually uses these nicotine salts, and that's different from all the other e-cigarettes before it, and it puts in benzoic acid. So the other e-cigarettes all use freebase nicotine, and you couldn't get it too strong without it tasting horrible. But Juul figured out this benzoic acid and making it super strong. So that's the nicotine salts is the new trend, too. And so what's actually in the ingredients of e-cigarettes, so these e-liquids and e-juices, we know that there's normally nicotine, propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, and food flavors. So a big misperception that I hear is people think it's like water and flavors that are in here, and that's never been the case. It's always been these chemicals in there. And the other misperception that I hear a lot too is people tend to think that the ingredients are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, but the ingredients aren't regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. So the ingredients don't need to be accurate. This is just an example that I like to show. This e-liquid shows it has 0 nicotine on the front. I mean, you can't really read it, I think. It's kind of far away. But then on the back it also says this does not contain nicotine, and then the last ingredient is nicotine in there. So that's just me just showing it's not regulated by the FDA. The other thing I like to point out too is the last ingredient, or the second last ingredient, says food flavors, so it doesn't even tell you what food flavor it is. And then this misperception too is a lot of people think that they were vaping water vapor. It's never been water vapor because I talked about all those chemicals that are in it, right? So it actually produces an aerosol. So I like to compare aerosol to a hairspray, right? So you're inhaling a hairspray-like substance. So for example, if you spray hairspray on your arm, that's gonna be sticky and stay there for a while, right? But if you sprayed water, it wouldn't. So that's you have these ultrafine particles that are sticking in your lungs. We also know that there's cancer-causing chemicals in there, volatile organic compounds. The metal coils produce heavy metals like nickel, tin, and lead. And we also know that the food flavorings aren't safe either. And then this is just to kind of show some more chemicals that are found in here. Propylene glycol produces antifreeze, that's found in there. Acetones and nail polish remover. Formaldehyde's an embalming liquid, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a bunch of stuff that we found. Yeah, do you have a question?
Just back to the aerosol?
Yeah.
Isn't that people that inhale aerosol and
Yeah.
things like that? It's the same kind of damage to the lungs?
Yeah,
I'm all this other stuff in it, but
mm-hmm.
like sniffing aerosol cans or something that teenagers do.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just that, your lungs, they can't break anything down, right? That's an organ, and this stuff sticks to your lungs. Where with your stomach, if you eat something, it has acid, and that can break these chemicals down. So I think that's a good comparison to make too. And then the other piece, so Aubrey, I work a lot on youth prevention as well, and we actually know that nicotine is really, really harmful to adolescents too. And one thing I like to talk about is how addictive nicotine is. You guys were in the generation with people smoking cigarettes, and a lot of people were able to quit, but a lot of people still couldn't quit. And most people that couldn't quit, they started before their 18th birthday. So the younger you start using nicotine, the harder it is to quit. And actually the stats show that 9 out of 10 adults that smoke cigarettes, they started before their 18th birthday. So 90% of people started using nicotine before their 18th birthday. And it's just so hard to quit because your brain's still developing. So we actually know that the adolescent brain is developing into your mid-20s, and what nicotine can do is it can chemically and structurally change the makeup of your brain. It can do things like lower impulse control, lead to depression and mood disorders. It disrupts the brain circuits that control learning and paying attention. And it can also prime the brain, that's kind of cut off, prime young brains for addiction to other drugs as well. So there's a lot of concerns with nicotine in young people, and prevention is really, really key here. We don't want them to start using. And then quickly, I just like to make the true comparison to the big tobacco companies. We know that big tobacco targeted kids. Like, it's a fact, they targeted kids. And here's just a quote from Philip Morris on the bottom that I'll read, just to kind of prove the point. Today's teenager is tomorrow's potential regular customer, and the overwhelming majority of smokers first begin to smoke while still in their teens. The smoking patterns of teenagers are particularly important to Philip Morris. Right, so we know these tobacco industries were targeting kids and teens because they'd be their lifelong customers, and they make the most profit out of these people. So when all the kids stopped smoking cigarettes, they were losing money, right? And then suddenly we found these e-cigarettes that kids are using these at alarming rates. So that's not a coincidence. That was done on purpose by the tobacco industry. And the tobacco industry uses these tactics, and the vaping industry followed suit. They use these tactics to try to attract youth. So they make their products sweet. So vaping flavors actually come in over 15,000 flavors. There's over 15,000, from cotton candy to unicorn milk. Like, it's crazy. We also know that e-cigarettes are a lot cheaper than cigarettes. So cigarettes are taxed, right? And that's actually to prevent people from using. The higher the price, the less likely kids are to start. But e-cigarettes, they're not taxed the same, or they weren't taxed the same. And also, one of the industry's biggest tactics is to make tobacco and vaping products available everywhere. So this is an interesting stat that I learned recently. There's more tobacco retailers in Massachusetts than Dunkin' Donuts. So every convenience store and gas station, they sell tobacco products, and they have the advertisements too behind that, right? And these are not age restrictions, so kids can go in there too. So that helps normalize it. And we actually know that the tobacco industry spends 96% of their marketing on these like non-age restricted outlets. So the industry wants their stuff to be easy to get and to be available everywhere. And then my final thing I'm going to talk about is how these tobacco and nicotine vaping products, they're always evolving and trying to get behind our laws as well. But so the new trend now, so federally they banned those flavored pods. Did you guys hear about that? Which was like, didn't do anything. But the federal government tried to like say, oh, we'll ban flavored pods because that attracts young people. So then what the industry did is they created these completely disposable products, like that first generation, that don't have pods, but you throw the whole device out when you're done. So that's a loophole. We also have these things called like snus or pouch tobacco, except they don't have tobacco in them, they just have nicotine, and they also have flavors. So those are like Zyn, Velo, it was on the top right. That's a trend too. Oh, so it's a pouch tobacco where you put it in your lip. And so it sits there, and so like in your mouth, it like absorbs it. So that's a trend. There's also nicotine toothpicks are on the market. They have flavors too. I saw some earlier today. And then Philip Morris has created their IQOS, which is called a heat not burn product that is just starting to come out in America. I know it was released in Atlanta. And it has a tobacco stick that you put in an electronic product and you heat it up. So they say like heat not burn, and they're trying to claim it's safer, but nothing has said it's safer. It's still tobacco. But yeah, so that's just, the industry's always coming out with something new to make money. How much time am I good? Because I have like a few things. People always ask me these questions, so I can go through them, and then if you guys have any extra questions for me. Does that sound good? Am I good with time? Okay. So there's a new tobacco law. Did you guys hear about that? So Massachusetts passed a new tobacco law in November, and basically what it does is it substantially restricts, basically bans all flavored tobacco products in Massachusetts. What it does is it restricts flavored tobacco and vaping products to adult-only stores. Or sorry, not to adult-only stores, to adult-only smoking bars, where you have to smoke on site and you can't leave with the product. There's only like 20 or 24 in Massachusetts. Not many of these exist. So immediately it said no flavored vaping products can be sold. So right now in Massachusetts, no flavored vaping products are allowed to be sold anywhere except these adult-only smoking establishments. Starting June 1st, they're substantially restricting / banning all other flavored tobacco products, including cigars, including like chew, and also including menthol cigarettes, which I think actually a lot of people don't really know about. So there'll be no flavored tobacco products in Massachusetts. And this is really the strongest state tobacco law. The other thing that they did is they increased the excise tax on e-cigarettes 75%. So I talked about before how e-cigarettes are a lot cheaper, so this should make them not as cheap. They did a few other things as well, like require insurance to cover quitting tobacco. There's some other like weird things. They also included increasing retail fines to minors and other penalties as well. Do you guys have any questions about the new state law before I move on? It's kind of like confusing in a way because there's a lot to it and lots of little nitty-gritty things. Okay, I'll move on. And then I just wanted to point out with menthol, the tobacco industry, so in 2009, the Food and Drug Administration, they banned flavored cigarettes, but they exempted menthol. So they banned flavored cigarettes because they said, oh, everything shows that the tobacco industry targeted children with flavored cigarettes, and flavored cigarettes mask the taste of tobacco. But however, they exempted menthol because menthol was a really big part of their market, and menthol cigarettes actually have an anesthetic quality to them, and it makes it easier to go down and harder to quit. So menthol is very important to the tobacco industry, and that's why it was the only flavored cigarette to get exempt from this federal ban. So Massachusetts did include this in their ban that's starting June 1st. The other thing is the tobacco industry targeted communities of color, young people, LGBTQ community with menthol cigarettes too. So those communities tend to smoke at higher rates because of the tobacco industry. Other questions I get, how do youth get these e-cigarettes if the legal age is 21 to buy them? So there's a few ways. We know that kids can like get these from a friend, like maybe they bum one, like take a puff or a hit off of one of their friends. Kids can go directly to a retailer and buy them illegally. We know that this has happened before, and it continues to happen. Our research shows that kids can get these products this way directly from retailers. And then also from friends and social sources. You have a friend that can buy it for you. That's something that happens. Online is kind of the least way kids tend to get these products, but kids have been able to get products online before. I'm not going to go into that. What are signs that young people are vaping? I don't know if you guys have like any grandkids or kids or young people that you're around, but here's just some signs. So an unexplained sweet scent. These vape products smell really good. They can smell kind of like super sweet in a way. And so I like to say if like a boy's bedroom or like the boy's locker room smells good, then maybe they're vaping. Also looking for unfamiliar products. So you guys have seen a few pictures. I also have some here if you want to come look after. But these products don't look like tobacco products. They look like pens. They look like USB drives. They look like highlighters. So those are just keeping an eye out for those products. And also signs of nicotine addiction. This is really, really big. So many kids are now addicted to nicotine. And the addiction is likely more than from cigarettes. If you think about it, e-cigarettes go down a lot smoother than a cigarette would, and the nicotine content, and it's just so much easier to get more and more nicotine than you would with a cigarette. So if there's any signs of like more irritable, more angry, not being able to pay attention, those are some signs of nicotine addiction. And you know what, I think I just but I'll take any questions. I have like extra resources, but I don't think I need to go into them. The one thing I will say is for anyone, if you know of anyone that wants to quit using any tobacco or e-cigarette products, there's a Massachusetts Smokers Helpline, which is 1-800-QUIT-NOW. We really encourage people to get counseling to quit and also use nicotine replacement therapy like the gum or lozenge or something. You're a lot more likely to quit using those two things at once because quitting nicotine, whether it be cigarettes, whether it be e-cigarettes, is really, really, really hard, and there's not many great ways to help you quit. It's something that you have to commit to, but we know that getting counseling, making a plan, and using nicotine replacement therapy can be helpful for that. Yes, I'm happy to take any questions now. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know.
I know, like historically, it's really difficult when you try to ban a substance like nicotine or alcohol or marijuana. I mean, you can make crack in your house if you need to, but why do they allow the production of these electronic devices? You can outlaw electronic production devices. You're not allowed to make your own stun gun. You're not allowed to make your own, laser pointer to aim at airplanes. Why do they allow the production of these electronic things? And the second question is, tobacco is one thing, nicotine is dangerous and bad, but if you're selling a device for people to inhale formaldehyde, you should be arrested for attempted murder and put in jail. It's like poison. It's like if I sold you something that had rat poison in it for you to eat, I would be arrested, right? Wouldn't I? Yeah. I don't even understand how it got this far. Why?
I mean, we know that money is a big factor here.
But no matter how much money I have, and when I always say, if I go out in the street and stab somebody, I'll be arrested. And that's essentially what this is. It's out in the street stabbing people. It's not addicting people or making them want your product. It's actually having them smoke poison you so long. It's not even the same. It's not like a cigarette even. It's not like a drink. It's not like caffeine addiction. It's not even like drugs, where you die the first time you eat. It's formaldehyde, for crying out loud. You're not allowed to put that in other products that you eat or lick or have your children handle. I don't get it. I don't even understand how it got this far. The electronic devices, you can stop the manufacturer. You can build a device to detect them. They got electronic circuits. You can make a buzzer go off when the kids bring them into school. I don't understand how it got this far, and nobody did anything.
Yeah. I don't have an answer.
He asked the question I wanted to ask, it's so important. Why is this allowed so fast? I think cigarettes would be better than what we have now. And how does this affect the children in the home and the people are smoking? Is it worse than cigarettes?
Yeah, so it's very confusing explaining this. So we know cigarettes kill 1 in 2 people that use them. Cigarettes are the leading cause of preventable death and disease in Massachusetts and the United States. So cigarettes are incredibly harmful. Cigarettes have more chemicals and carcinogens in them than e-cigarettes do.
We get more control of cigarettes, but again, we get kind of anonymous. And now, are you going to leave some literature today?
Yeah, I have some.
And another thing is I've heard that if they can't get it in Massachusetts, they go to Connecticut to get it.
That can happen.
Does that happen really?
Yep, that happens. New Hampshire.
Yeah, I figured it was true, yeah. But it's so hard for us to understand all this. That's why I wanted some literature.
Mm-hmm. I have some.
I don't know what the problem, but I would like to learn more on it. I still can't understand the drug dealers behind some of this. I feel like they have. Who's getting all the money?
Yeah.
And we still have a big drug problem. So it didn't accomplish, to me, it doesn't seem like it accomplished much at all. It's something new, and the younger kids are going to try anything that's new.
Yeah, and the kids didn't realize, what they all thought it was water vapor at first. They didn't realize there was chemicals in it. They didn't realize there was nicotine in it, because the industry hid that, so.
Just so we're not going to have any control over it. That's how I feel. From the little bit I know, but I don't understand it all either,
know? Yeah, and I can explain how the Food and Drug Administration, what they have control over. So they actually do, the FDA does have the authority to regulate the sale and distribution of e-cigarettes. And so they do, like, they raised the legal sales age to 21 too. So like they can do stuff, but they haven't done anything with the ingredients or anything yet. So. You want to say something else?
Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of speak to both of your comments, and I feel you. I get the frustration. I always joke and say that in my job working in prevention, it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole, because the minute you address one substance, something new is always going to pop up, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. And it's really frustrating because as soon as you feel like you have something solved, something new comes up. So my response to that and how we solve that problem is, my main goal is to build a community where youth don't feel like they have to turn to any substance to solve a problem, no matter how cool it may seem. So if youth are vaping or turning to vaping because it's a way to de-stress, well, I want to come in and help them learn other positive coping mechanisms. So my goal is to build a community where youth don't feel like they need to use these substances. And that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time, and I probably won't see that result in my lifetime, but I hope to move us there, because something new is always going to come up, and we don't know how they come up because money. So I hope that kind of addresses it. I feel your frustration.
To your point, why are they allowed? Why are they allowed to be manufactured and sold? The lobbyists.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. The lobbyists in Washington. Get rid of them. And that's
As a follow-up to all of this, please, is it the tobacco industries that we know, like R.J. Reynolds, do they own these vaping companies? So because the use of cigarettes went down, they found another way to keep their sales up? Or is it another kind of tobacco chemical organization that came in to create this vaping? So I guess I wonder kind of who's at the bottom of this? Who's getting the money? Who's paying those lobbyists? You know, because Deep Throat said follow the money, and I always think that's the way to go. So please, if you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so it's a mix. So Juul, they were independently owned at first, but now, so the owner, so Philip Morris, who owns Marlboro, their parent company's Altria, they own 33% of Juul. So Juul is big tobacco. There's also like the e-cigarette brand Blue. I think they're owned by R.J. Reynolds. They're owned by one of the big tobacco companies, and there's like a bunch of them too that are associated and created by big tobacco. Buse is another one, but there are some that are more independent vaping companies as well. So it's a mix. So I tend to talk about it, I don't know how well I did today, but I tend to say tobacco and vaping industries. And it's been interesting at the lobbying level, because you get the people that were just vape coming saying one thing, and then the big tobacco saying another thing, and kind of contradicting each other for lobbying purposes. So it's kind of interesting seeing that play out. Yeah. Do we have time for more questions? There's one more over there.
What grade level is the lowest that you're focusing on for education about this?
So in Norwood, the lowest that Impact Norwood is focusing on through the grant that we have is 6th grade. But we do recognize and understand that it needs to start even sooner. So 6th grade, but we hope to eventually move into work where we start working with younger grades.
Yeah, we recommend like 5th grade even to start sometime soon. That's when some of the e-cigarette curriculums that I recommend to schools. They have some for 5th grade too. And I did want to point out one website for you guys to go to, which is the organization that I kind of like work for / I'm associated with. It's the Massachusetts Tobacco Program, so it's getoutrage.org. And I'll have papers that have the website too. But it has a lot more information on there, and it was actually updated today. So there should be new information as well. But I think that's it for me then. If I want to transfer back over to you guys, I can leave my contact info there. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. You want to make your presentation?
Okay, I'm sure many of you have heard what yesterday was. Have anyone heard on the news the new hands-free laws while driving? Yep, so we are out in full effect trying to catch you all, which I will say, I have not seen many people. I think it's on the radio so much and all over TV that it's really, having an impact. However, a month down the road or so, once all these commercials stop coming on, then, hopefully it'll keep the numbers down. So does everyone understand the new law? You cannot touch your phone. You cannot text. You cannot even make a phone call.
Is that only the driver?
Only the driver, yes. Yeah. So if you have a passenger, you can have them make the call for you. I usually tell my kids to read my texts and all that for me.
You can only give them a warning for a month.
For the first month, you only get a warning. Unless you get pulled over twice, then that's your subsequent offense and you'll get a ticket for that.
So when I'm using my phone, it's my GPS,
Yes.
it's up on my dashboard, but something comes up on the screen that I might have to clear so I can see my map again.
You are allowed one swipe. So as long as you don't have to do more than just one swipe to get rid of that, yeah, as long as you're not looking at it and manipulating it,
Okay.
the law says one swipe. Yes, ma'am.
Is it true that mechanics and car dealerships are required to pay AT&T cars that don't have it at no charge?
I haven't heard that. I can't. I look into that, but that sounds a little, yeah, I don't know if that's, I'll have to look into that one. I don't think they'd be okay with that one.
Just for, if you don't know and you have an older car that doesn't have Bluetooth and you have a phone, it's very inexpensive to buy a device that will let you, automatically answer the phone just with voice only and have a speaker so you don't have to touch it.
Yeah.
So ask,
Even Siri, that's how, I'll just say, hey Siri, text someone.
well, but you need a speaker usually if your car doesn't have it, and those are like $30. So ask your grandchildren to help you install one of those in your older car if you don't have it, because then you don't have to.
Well, for Siri, you don't need a speaker.
Well, yeah.
True.
Yeah. If your phone's loud enough, my phone's not.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions on that? No? There is, yes.
I thought I heard that you couldn't even pull over to the side of the road to make a call. You have to be in like a parking lot?
As long as you're off the roadway,
Okay.
then you're okay. As long as you're not driving and, put it in park, make sure you're off the roadway. Okay. See, I have heard of another scam going on that I know we're always talking about scams, but this one I found a little interesting. The woman was contacted by Amazon and said that her account had been hacked and they wanted to help her, figure it out. And they told her that all she had to do was log in and he could see her screen and manipulate it from his end. And, he had information that she didn't realize. She thought, okay, he knows all this information, it must be legit. And he went in her account and transferred money and did all this stuff. So anybody that says they can manipulate your phone from elsewhere, just hang out. Anybody that calls you, no matter what, I know you've been told before that if someone gives you a number to call because you've been hacked or scammed, to call them, don't. Look it up online first and find the number that's listed on the internet and call that number to make sure that it's not a scam. Let's see, Norwood Police Department, I believe the senior center as well is collecting pajamas. They're having a pajama drive in town right now, so we're kind of having a little competition to see who can collect the most. So we have boxes here, we have the police station, fire station, but It would be very much appreciated if you have any donations. Any other questions for me?
Are there going to be scans or census?
Like with the census taking, coming on, what should we look for? Census interviewers and things.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Census? Any scams coming up for that? What's that?
The scams are gonna be what, like you said, the census is the IRS is doing another one because it's tax time, census time, whenever, if they could find a way to get more pajamas, get money out of you, whatever is the going trend of seasonal. So now it's the census. They do have them. I saw an ad the other day. Now, it all depends on the town you're in. I don't know if there's a peddler's license, so they have to be identified. Would you know anything
I
about
believe they would have to come to the town hall, the station first to register, so. Play it safe and don't answer your door.
that? So I answer the door, and I just sent mine in the mail the other day. The city sends it out.
Yeah.
You know, again, the scams come out when it's this time of year. They're gonna start saying the IRS is gonna start calling you now because it's tax time.
And do you have many people come to your door?
Well, I never answer.
Okay.
But at the census, I thought you're supposed to answer, but I
Refuse to answer anybody that
Yeah,
asks
absolutely.
questions.
I will say, I
At the
don't live in
door.
Norwood, I live in Walpole, but I live right off of the highway, so usually anybody that's coming to do any door-to-door stuff, I get them all the time, or used to get them. I went to Home Depot and I bought this little no solicitor sign. It's just a sticker that goes right by my door. I have not had one person come to my door in the last 3 years that I bought this sticker, and all my neighbors still do. So if, a little sticker's gonna keep them away, I don't know why, that did it, but I haven't had one person come to my door.
Walpole, I live in Walpole, I've already done the survey, to see the mail.
Yep, so did I, yeah.
I just make a comment, I'm thrilled that the no hands phone ban went into effect. I wish someone would put a law into effect that you can't be looking at your phone while you're crossing an intersection. Because I've seen more
That's
people.
true.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
They're not
Some
paying
people
attention.
assume that because there's a crosswalk that everybody knows to stop. Believe me, someone that does traffic and crosses people for church every weekend, that's not the case. So no matter if you're a crosswalk or not, look up and just,
From the hospital to the Guile building, I
Mhm.
see it all the time. And
yeah,
I honk at them.
absolutely, keep honking.
Yeah. And I saw someone the other day who's approaching that crosswalk in front of the hospital, coming from the opposite side, it's almost crossing. And the person stopped and actually put their blinkers on, which I thought was a great idea to alert oncoming traffic to, if they were stopping, to let someone cross.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. It called attention to the fact that someone was in the crosswalk.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I've gotten a call a couple of times that the contract for my computer is up for renewal, and they'll take it out of whatever. I don't even have a computer.
Oh, yeah. Right, yeah.
And it did leave a number. I still have it on my answer machine. It's still, they-
Unfortunately,
I
there's
did
so
call.
many scams right now that we can't follow through on every single one because they typically go nowhere.
Don't
You're
answer
smart.
your phone, don't
Yeah.
go out, don't answer your door.
Stay inside.
Stay
Don't
inside,
do
don't go outside, just come here on
Stay safe.
the third Wednesday, Monday of the month, and you'll stay safe, okay? So,
Well, you know what? We were told when somebody comes to the door, don't ignore it. Because they think there's nobody home, and then they go around the back and try to get in. So to say something, oh, I can't come to the door, or my husband's in the bathroom, I'm here, there, whatever. But say something, and the person will leave. But if you don't say anything, they think there's nobody there.
or you can't come to the door like with the phone. Sharp McDermott always, if you're going to go to the door,
Yeah.
just go to the door with the phone, just pick it up and say, hello,
Yeah.
hello, officer, you coming here?
Personally, I just make a little noise inside,
Yeah.
but I
What do you
wouldn't
want?
answer the door still.
I'm on the phone with my son, he's coming from karate lessons. My daughter, the Norwood police officer's on her way over, so anything to let them know you're home.
Excuse my name.
Yeah.
Officer Carmichael's
Yes,
here.
Officer Carmichael is coming over, and we're gonna have target practice on people on their front lawn. It is, the bolder ones will do that, the real sophisticated ones are gonna be over the phone, because they don't wanna get caught, you know? Because but I would say it's not.
Scammers are lazy these days.
They are.
Most of them aren't coming to your door.
The old way, we used to go door to door, right? You had to go, had a paid route, you had to go get more customers, you banged on doors, or sold chances for your baseball team. My parents used to just, if I ever told them where I was selling chances, you know, but that's how it was, that's how we grew up. People came to your door. Used to be a welcome sight, oh, how you doing? Or remember the guy who sold all the brushes? That's what my mother used to have, the full of brush guy.
They're still in business.
I love that. There was never anything for me with that thing just kept open.
I got a phone call today while I was here, from a cell phone, and I can't read any numbers or anything anymore, so I have to answer it. And I said, hello, and they said, this is medical alert. I said, well, why are you calling me? Bang, it went out, it stopped. I do have a medical thing, but I wanted him to say what kind, and he hung up. So I mean, even now they're doing that, so that's crazy. Yeah. See, it's hard for us that we can't see that.
You know what you do? Let it go to voicemail. If you're really that worried. No, I'm serious. If you let it go to voicemail,
I had my daughter take it off.
and then if it's a real person calling that cares, 99 out of time, it's going to
We
be.
can't do that because we got phones that you just say, you give the person, and then they say, well, this person is okay. They get them. We can't dial anymore, even in the big phone.
Oh.
So it's really a problem. But
Well.
that's the first one I got on medical alert.
I usually tell people, if you don't know the number, don't pick it up. But if you're in that spot, you just pick it up and hang up if you don't know who
I
they
have
are.
a deal with my kids. If I don't pick it up, they call my house phone or it's a house phone or the phone. A lot of times I don't answer because I get so many calls. But it's aggravating,
It is. I'll just finish it up. Thomas?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Officer Carmichael. Yeah, just say, my name is Joe Canavan. I'm here with Norfolk County Sheriff Jerry McDermott. Great program here today. Learned a lot. This vaping thing is amazing. It's not amazing, it's amazingly complex. It's came out of nowhere. Yes, for me, yes.
Just for the health department, has there been a lot of flu in Norwood and any concerns about like viruses?
All the stuff in the news. Yes. So we had a Board of Health meeting this morning. And Stacy Lane, the Assistant Public Health Director and Acting Public Health Nurse, because Karen Reagan retired. She went over all of that this morning, so I would definitely recommend checking out Norwood Community Media. I don't want to misspeak and give you false information, but flu is very high. So if you feel symptoms, talk to your doctor, get tested for the flu. But yeah, stay home. Yeah, but if you watch the recent taping from this morning, you'll get a lot more information. Norwood Community Media, they record all of the Board of Health meetings for us, and I don't know, I'm gonna put him on the spot and ask when you think that might be available for the public to view.
Should be today. It was
Should
live this morning.
Yeah, should be today on the Norwood Community Media website. So just, yeah, yep. It should be on TV too. You can check, they have the TV schedule on their website as well, so you can see when it's airing on television as well.
I'm all set.
Thank you, Joe. Trish?
I do have one thing. As you all know, hopefully everybody knows, the presidential primary is coming up on March 3rd. So Town Hall actually has early voting happening now. The hours that they're going to have them, it's starting today from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then tomorrow 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. On Wednesday this week, On the 26th, they'll start at 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then it goes back to 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So this will be held in Memorial Hall at Town Hall. If you're registered to vote, you can just go down to Memorial Hall, check in as you normally would, get your ballot, fill a ballot out, place it, check out, and you're all set.